Mr. David Palan.
Yeah, man.
We're back.
What's going on? This is the part where we try not to step on each other's toes.
Yeah,
and like in the green room and trying to get ready for the show.
You can't ask me any of that until I do this.
Yeah, because...
Shall we begin?
You aren't stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Let's begin now.
Please get that bicycle-shaped object out of this shop. Oh, no, dude. No mix and match here. Black bottoms or full-on kit. Pedal on, bro. Pedal on.
Let's begin now.
Oh, geez. Learn the hard way. Wider is better.
Today is Friday, June 7th, 2019. You just downloaded and are listening to Bike Shop CX. Say it for me, Mr. David Palan.
Bike Shop CX.
Music I'm using on today's show is Bijou by Philly Run. As always, you can download this tune at the Free Music Archive where you can get it for free. What are we talking about on today's show? We kind of have a mishmash of things to talk about under our tech topic. Of course, we're going to do What Are You Working On? We got a few good questions for everybody, and that's it. A pretty basic, straightforward Bike Shop CX show.
Bike Shop CX!
So, I think that's enough of our yapping for now. Let's get on with it. The Bike Shop is open.
I have to keep remembering not to sing along. Like normally I'm listening to that part on the podcaster and I'm singing along, and now I have to remember, no.
You don't
sit quietly.
Yeah, you don't normally hear that part.
No.
What's up,
this
Mr.
new
David
Roadcaster, man? This is the bomb.
The Roadcaster we're getting better at it too.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at the coordination of the buttons, and yeah. And the sound quality is better. So yeah, it's working well. It's a good, and very soon, I think, half the wide angle podium network is going to have one of these things.
Yeah.
So.
Do you get dibs or some type of a bonus
based on
commission? I mean, I actually just picked up totally different world, I know, but my spin class, I finally gave up on using the headset that they provide. Bought myself a Shure headset. Super nice.
Yeah, Shure makes great mics.
And I got an email almost immediately from the company I purchased it from that said, "Hey, how did you hear about us?" I'm like, Scotty D told me about you guys. And you have talked about it as well. Like, what a great company that you get that the Rode comes from. And
I kind of equally like Rode and Shure. They're kind of equal. I like them both for different reasons. Like sometimes I like the Shure mics, sometimes I like the Rode mics. For people that want to know, not only do we use the Rodecaster Pro, we use the Rode Procaster mics too. Yeah. And just so you know, Mr. David Palan, Rode makes these two podcast specific mics now.
Yeah.
They actually are marketing them with the Rodecaster board, and we've got two of those on the way. So, and we will have those
when we go to
Trek.
All right. Maybe we'll need more than just two.
Well, we've got these two. We got our two Procasters, then we'll have the two pod mics, and I am so looking forward to Trek, man.
Yeah. I mean, I normally am, but now it's like gone to 11.
Now it's up to 11. Right. I think Shiken and I were talking the other day. I was like, this is like 6 or 7 years in a row for me at Trek. It's just always been one of my favorite races. Here's part of the reason why. Here's how cool. This is before it was a World Cup, right? The Trek CXC. When we had the Women's CX project, right? We would, we'd contact them. Hey, we want to bring our team to the race. We have a women's development team.
Right.
And you know what their response was?
Women aren't allowed here.
No, of course not.
We have a special short race that we pay half as much for.
They have always been huge supporters of women's cyclocross. And so they would be like, wait a minute. The first year, they're like, wait a minute. You have a women's only development team?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. They're like, oh, you guys don't pay for parking.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
What you're doing is so awesome.
Yeah.
We're not charging you for parking. Get in here.
Yeah.
You got a free spot. We're like, okay, that's awesome. So yeah, that's how cool Trek has always been with this race.
Right.
And they continue to be that way. And this year, as many of the viewers probably already know, Wide Angle Podium is a sponsor of that race, along with all the other sponsors that they have. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to have, I believe, I did get a little bit of info from Bill as far as what's going on. I believe we're going to have a 6 tent setup.
All right. I don't know how we're going to fill those 6 tents, but I am psyched.
2 of them are, I think, going to be for...
2 of them are like, we have to sleep, so we're going to spend the weekend?
I think 2 of them are for the Crosshairs team.
Oh, right, okay, right.
And then the other 4 are for Wide Angle Podium. But they're all going to be together. I think we're going to have the Crosshair Sprinter van parked at one end, and then the Bike Shop CX Sprinter van parked at the other end. And
I noticed that there's not another Sprinter van coming up from Florida that's all logoed out, huh? Not going to mention any names, Tim, but there we go.
I'm sure Tim is flying. I hope Tim is flying.
No, he has a really cool cargo bike now, I think.
Yeah, he should ride that. He's been talking about wanting to do those long tours,
rides,
right?
Yeah.
So, but the other cool thing is, yes, I believe, we're pretty sure all the Wide Angle Podium hosts are going to be there, including Molly from Consummate Athlete.
Yeah.
So I think everybody is going to be there.
Oh, that's
as far
great.
as we know right now, everybody is going to be there. So,
we know that Doug and John are going to be there from the Gravel Log.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're pretty sure that we know we're going to be there unless disaster happens between now and then. Shiken, of course, Bill Shiken, and Spencer, of course.
Yep.
So that's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for that event.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm figuring out how I got to get from Rochester over to Trek and be at Trek by Thursday. I mean, it's possible, of course, but it's
swing by the house, would you, and come get me?
It's going to be.
I'll go with you.
Yeah. Luckily, we live about halfway in between those two,
That's
so
right.
I can stop by, grab Mr. David Palan, and we'll be off to that event. So
because I will likely be in Alma, Michigan, the weekend of Rochester, right?
Oh yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, for sure. Announcing
with
up there.
Mr.
Maybe I can
Voice
pick up both
of
you
American
and Scott
Cyclocross.
Herman, right? Yeah. I'm sure he's going to have his own ride there, but
yeah.
And then the other thing, Mr. David Palan, I want to tease. We're working on some merchandise.
We are.
You're kind of running with this, so we're thinking. We won't say what exactly, but we'll say 2 different articles of clothing /
We might cover your head to toe kind of thing, right? I don't know.
Cover yourself head to toe with the Bike Shop CX logo.
Yeah.
There you go. So we'll be
the Bike Shop CX onesie,
and that will only be being sold at Trek. That's the first time it will be available, I should say.
Right, yeah.
We're not going between now and then, it's not going to be available. The first time it's going to be available is at Trek, and then if we have leftovers, we'll figure something else out. Right? We can figure something. I could take some down to Jingle maybe if we have leftovers and sell some there too.
Contaminate it all with stands.
Customize it, you mean?
Yeah, it's custamize. Did I say contaminate? No, customize it with stands.
So, Mr. David Bell, what are you drinking over there?
This
I see you have a very fancy. Speaking of logo,
I don't have my my tippy cup that I normally bring up here. So
you
I've
have
been
a very,
very, very careful.
Fancy Bike Shop CX logo on that coffee mug.
I do indeed. That's a nice logo, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we should use that.
It's spiffy.
On
someone should make some socks that have that on.
That would be cool.
That would be.
Who
cool.
would we need to talk to?
I don't know.
I've got some ideas.
Anyways,
but inside is not socks. I was about to tip it to look inside to make sure, but that would have spilt it all over the roadcaster. This is some full Schleck.
You got
the full Schleck.
The full Schleck. Of course, we're talking about Grimpeur Brothers coffee. If you get a chance, go to GrimpeurbRothers.com or wideanglepodium.com. You can click on the link to get you to Grimpeur Brothers. And if you buy, their coffee is just outstanding. I know for regular listeners, you're like, we hear this every show.
Do we have listeners?
Our viewers, I mean, we hear this every show. But if there are new viewers, yes, Grimpeur Brothers coffee is amazing stuff. You just won't be disappointed. And if you buy either the full Schleck or Hello Cyclocross Friends, you support our show, you support the Wide Angle Podium Network, and you support a company that has shown historically that they are all in when it comes to cyclocross,
and
right?
cycling in general,
Cyclocross, gravel, yeah, in general, cycling in general. But Dan's real specific. He really supports the cyclocross and gravel community. So you're supporting that too. So that's amazing.
I'm going to take a minute to just tell a Dan story.
Okay,
Just real quick.
Yeah.
A Dan story. I spoke with Dan. I speak with him fairly often. I was speaking with him, I believe it was at Nationals this year.
Okay.
We were talking about how great it is that the people are really becoming aware how popular Grimpeur Brothers coffee is. And I don't know how we came to it, but it's like this sense of, well, at what point do you decide I'm quitting my day job and I'm going to have this be my job?
right.
It's like, I can't do that because he doesn't make money at this. I mean, he makes, don't get me wrong, there's some profits or whatever. There's some income associated with it, but he does this work to generate funds to support cycling.
How amazing.
And, Dan is the best. If you don't already follow Grimpeur Brothers Coffee on the social media, go out. I mean, the stuff that he does in Instagram in particular.
Yeah. And if you wanna hear Dan, you could. Wide Angle Podium has this new thing called the Parts Bin.
The Parts Bin.
Yeah, it's a feed you can follow. It's basically a collection of short, or not short, but like shows that don't have as big of an audience right now. Bill put one out there called Grodeo, where they talk about gravel.
I thought that was such a great name.
It's a great name because it combines gravel,
Yep.
road, and radio.
Yep.
And it's called Grodeo.
And it's kind of rodeo as well, right?
And it's kind of, right. It's that rodeo feel to it, too.
Yeah.
And then I put out an episode of a show called Hazy Vinyl Jive where I went completely off the rails, all the way away from cycling. But one of my other interests is, of course, vinyl music and vinyl. You got to be careful. You can't just say my interest is vinyl because people kind of get there. Yeah. So vinyl music, where I talk about that. And if you want to hear Dan is on that first episode with me where we talk about the Talking Heads Speaking in Tongues 1980s album, and we have a great time talking about that. Dan has got some great knowledge about that because he's also a vinyl fan.
So I'm going to let you, because now I've gotten us off track and now we're going down here. And before I pull us back to, as I always do, like I try to stay on the schedule, but
right.
I know because we're friends and I'm at the recording studio often and see how much vinyl and your level of understanding of the technology behind it and the history and just this stuff. I don't know how much homework Dan had done ahead of time. I'm getting the feeling there wasn't a lot, but that guy knows his. I'm not gonna say all the vinyl, all the albums, all of the bands.
Yeah.
But man, he was on top of.
Well, do you want to know why I even asked him to be on the first show?
I do want to know.
You don't know the story?
I may know this story.
He put up a picture on, I think it was Instagram, of a stack of records.
Right.
And I saw way in the back.
That's right.
The edge of the special edition of the Talking Heads Speaking in Tongues album. And I said, is that the Talking Heads special edition Speaking in Tongues?
And he's like, turns out, yes.
He's like, yeah. How did you see that? I'm like, I could tell by the edge of the jacket.
Yeah.
It did have a very unique jacket. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, we should talk about that record because I have that too, and we both had the general release.
Copies, right?
We both had the general release and the special edition, so it made for a fun time talking about that record and how important that record was. And we're going to do more. I'm going to do more of those shows too with other people, and we're going to talk about other records. And Dan picked the record for the next show, which is David Bowie's "The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars." So we might be talking about that one relatively soon. So anyways, get over to the Parts Bin, check it out. It's a new feed that we have going on Wide Angle Podium. And if you want to hear Dan,
just go ahead, get the Wide Angle Podium app.
Or get the
your
app.
phone.
It's on the app.
And then you can get
That's
all
how
of
I
it.
listen to it.
The WAP
there you
app.
go. All right, Mr. David Palan.
Yeah.
I have another question for you, though.
Man, this is like the question and answer show.
It is. What are you working on?
Hold on. I didn't realize you were going to ask me this.
Every time.
So I am working my way up to 210 miles of luscious gravel from Augrey, Michigan to Ludington, Michigan, also known as Coast to Coast.
Michigan, coast to coast.
Yeah, and that's coming up in 2 weeks now.
Oh, is that
it's
it?
Close. It's very close. 2 weeks. And going into it, right, you always should try something the day before your big ride, you should try something new. Isn't that what they say?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
A new saddle is like the best.
Yeah,
or
new
position.
saddle. Change your cleat position on your shoes. Always a good idea.
Always a good idea.
Yep.
As you know, I'm a big drinker. Actually, Dr. T
No.
always gives me a hard time because we returned from a 4-hour bike ride and I've got a quarter of a bottle drunk. So, and I understand, we talked about this a little bit when we talk about Coast to Coast, that in the past, for Coast to Coast last year, I used a Camelback.
Okay, right.
And I hated it, which is why I loved it, because that thing filled with water on my back was uncomfortable and miserable. Annoyed me, and I drank all of the water in it as quickly as possible to just empty the thing out. Which is a strategy, right?
Right. Heck yeah, man.
I ended up giving it up after, I think, the first 50 miles. Maybe it was at the 110-mile stop.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then the final, I do know for sure, the final 60, 70 miles, I did not use it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I could, or I guess the last leg was 50 miles. I knew I could make it.
Right.
And I didn't care if I ended up dehydrated at the end of that because I wasn't riding after
Right,
that.
you're done.
I'm done.
Although you don't want to be stretched out on a ambulance
That is
stretcher with
correct.
a line
No,
in your
no.
arm.
No.
So, but still, yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah,
had
that makes for bad optics, too. It has this doping look when you're hooked up to an IV bag at the end of a ride, even if it's just saline dripping.
Right.
So, yes. So I went out and I bought just this week, and I was showing it to you earlier, the Orange Mud Vest.
Yes.
This is a product that, if you remember correctly, Amanda Nauman
Yes, that's what I was just going to say.
had brought with her when she went up to Coast with us last year.
She brought three of them,
right?
Because she has, I mean, her checkpoint stops are like a minute long, right? So she comes flying in, takes one off. She might have had four actually. Takes one off, puts the next one on, and you know,
and each one. Go listen. She has a podcast on the Orange Mud website.
Yeah,
that she talks about these very strategies.
Right.
Each one of those has a tube in it. And whatever that she's going to need, so she never even has to think about transferring anything from a pocket to another pocket.
Right, each one is specific.
This is a little bit different, like we talk about, right? The mullet, the front end of it is racing hard, and the back end is having fun.
Is racing the course.
Yeah,
right.
So whether or not I'll have all that stuff, and what my current strategy is, I will probably have pre-mixed for each of the stops. And just refill the bladder at each of the stops.
Yeah, that's
but I'm going to put this theory to test this weekend, actually. Tomorrow, you and I will be in Alma, Michigan.
At the
for
Glengarry, Glen Gravel, Glen Ross,
Glen Gramble, Glen something.
Glen Close.
Glen Close. Yeah.
Gravel Gamble. Okay.
Yeah, where you and Drew Escherick will be there.
Yeah,
I'm psyched for that. People can come by and visit you. Or people can wait at the end for me to come around the course and meet up with you at the end. I'll be doing 100 miles of gravel.
So I want to talk about this a little bit more, since we probably won't do another show before Michigan Coast to Coast, or it'll be close. Either way.
Close to close.
I want to ask you a little bit about the changes in your setup. So you're doing completely different bike, right? Last time was the Colnago.
Not completely different.
Well,
I'm using the same crank.
The same crank. But you did it last year, of course, and it was fun talking about it, and everyone thought you were crazy because you did it on 33 mil wide tubulars, because that's what you ride a lot on, right? And but now you have. Have you mentioned you've mentioned that you have a
disc brake,
a Warbird?
I did
a Salsa Warbird now. I should say you got the frame and built up your own custom.
I got
version.
the custom Dr. Tracy Berman frame.
Right. And so you're going to be riding tubeless this year. Disc brakes, first of all. Hydraulic.
I gotta figure this thing out, man. I put in like 3/4 of the amount of recommended hydraulic fluid, so they would feel like my canties.
And only kind of stop you.
Yeah.
But you are switching to tubeless.
Right now, I'm running Hutchinson overrides.
Overrides.
It's 35 mil.
35s. Okay.
I'm leaning towards. I'm gonna try for. We'll see what time we're done recording. I may set up a set of 42 or 40s. Specialized makes a adventure tire,
right?
That I'm considering because that last 80 miles is real sandy.
Yeah, and so last year the race was much earlier. Not much, but a month
earlier.
A month earlier, so the sand was still wetter and more compact.
Yeah.
Although we've been getting a ton of rain this year.
Yeah.
I still think though it's going to be looser in June than it was last year.
That Justin, who rides with us, and will be he trained with us and he rode with someone else last year. He's going to be riding with Dr. T and I this year. He went up and did the last 80 miles last weekend, and it poured all night the night before he rode it.
Okay.
And it was soft sand at the bottom of some of those hills.
Yeah.
And he's like sand traps. Like if you don't realize it, you will go over the front end of your bike.
Right. You have to anticipate that sudden front of the bike slowing down right now.
Yeah.
Get your weight back. And
so that kind of has me concerned a little bit. But then I keep coming back to this. I'm not racing it per se.
You just have to not crash there. You don't have to go through it fast.
Exactly.
You just have to not crash, which is a much simpler but when you're that fatigued, it's easy to forget and not think about it, and then all of a sudden you're on the ground. That's going to be
at like 150 miles in, 140 miles in. So
exactly.
And now because someone has pre-ridden the course, reconned it, and gave me some information, which is now secondhand at best.
Right.
For 150 miles, I'm going to worry about what's going to happen.
The last 50.
Which is, and I've talked about this with Justin. I talked about it with Tracy on our rides. Like, part of me doesn't want to know. Don't recon the course. Don't tell me what tires I should be riding or not riding. I'll go out there and I will just continue to ride.
I'll take it as it comes.
If I have to get off my bike and run, walk, push the bike, whatever I need to do, I'm going 210 miles.
This is the thing. Getting off your bike and walking in a 200-mile race is not always a bad thing.
No.
Right?
No.
Right?
I mean, it's often
checkpoints are every 50 miles. You go, especially when you get in the later checkpoints, you go 20, 25 miles past the checkpoint, doing a quick hop off the bike and walking for 200 yards and loosening back up before it's not a bad idea.
The feeling comes back to your fingers,
yes,
your toes,
your legs, your hips,
Yeah,
everything gets stretched a little bit, and then you can go, and then continue on. So, I mean,
So fair warning to Dr. Tracy and to Justin, if I'm getting off the bike and walking, it's because it's a good thing. It's not because I'm
tired.
Fatigued and tired or anything.
It's planned.
It's planned. That's right.
So,
my
but back to the bike stuff.
Sure.
You had this big Revelet bag that was extremely heavy last year.
Yeah,
we're going to get rid of that.
Not so heavy, but the
bag is
pretty
great.
Good, right?
It's not the Revelet bag. It's just you had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and so some of the things that were in that bag,
right?
That
a tubular tire that can go right. We don't need that. So that's gone.
I am going to carry 2 tubes.
Good idea.
Patch kit.
Sure. Any boots, like tire boots?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of like waffling between a dollar bill
and $1 bill. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Or a Cliff Bar wrapper or something like that.
Right.
Tire boots. I mean, they're purpose built, but if it's got sealant all over it,
are they going to stick?
Are they going to stick? All that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry the tubular tire.
Right.
No. I'm not going to carry a winter coat, which I did carry.
Well, that's one of the. While it's a disadvantage that it might be looser, one of the advantages about it being later is your last year having a jacket. I think the danger last year was getting wet early in the course while it was still very cold.
Right.
Could potentially be a dangerous situation. The chances of that happening, in my opinion, are much less this year. Right. If it were me, I'd keep a jacket at the checkpoints, but not ride with the jacket. Right. Last year, I think it was important to have a jacket to ride with. Yeah. But this year, it's far less important.
As much as you're sweating while you're out there riding, my reasoning behind the jacket was if something should happen, and now I'm stuck side of road waiting for you to come get me.
Yeah.
I needed to stay
You
warm.
got it right,
and
absolutely.
that was the idea behind the jacket.
So I think in June you're a little you don't have that issue.
Much less likely.
So
I'm kind of toying with and going back and forth on a rain jacket.
Yeah.
certainly weather dependent. But even when it looks like it's going to be clear all day, sometimes here in Michigan, those little storms pass through.
Yeah,
and a rain jacket can be important in those situations as well. Not as I'm stuck by the side of the road and want to stay dry, but just to kind of keep yourself dry.
Yeah. So we have the potential of just not having that rear saddlebag at all.
That is correct.
You could maybe do a frame bag, and then because of all the water bottle mounts you have on the Warbird, you can use one water bottle as like a storage.
Yeah.
And fit everything in between the frame bag and that.
My current thinking is, and current is like, it's happening in 2 weeks. So
right.
This is kind of my commitment, is to go with a, they think they call them a little keg or something like that, that is basically the size of a water bottle.
Yeah.
Fits into the water bottle.
Yeah, I've got one of those. It's actually a salsa one. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
And that will be on my down tube cage.
The one under the down tube. Yeah.
I did actually test ride with a bottle on there.
It's not bad. You don't even know it's there.
Ride. Well, I don't know if you realize this, but I'm not a very big person. Right? And so if you ride a 56, you get 3 water bottle cages within the triangle on the Warbird.
Right.
If you ride a 52, you get 2 water bottle cages, plus the one under the down tube.
Right.
And that's not very far from your front wheel if you're riding a 52.
Yeah.
So I did want to test that out. There is enough clearance that it will not interfere.
Yeah.
You and I spoke in the green room a bit about using the mounts on the fork.
Yeah.
And putting water bottle cages there.
Right. But now we've got
But now with the orange mud, that was a big reason why I wanted to try this orange mud rather than putting bottle cages on the fork.
So you're going to I think you're going to have a much lighter setup this year, man.
Well, we weighed the Warbird and weighed in, 18 pounds?
18 pounds, 8 ounces.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That right there, even your Colnago, that's even lighter than your Colnago, I think.
I think it probably is.
And if you lose that saddlebag and you have just a smaller frame bag with the orange mud and the little tool case on the bottom, you're losing all that weight on the back of your bike.
Right.
You're going to have your little handlebar pouch that you keep.
My feed bag, yep.
Yeah. So I think you're dropping over 5 pounds.
Yeah. Now, even a frame bag, I'm not convinced I'm going to go with one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not a very big person, and the frame bag just really fills that area. And now I can't get to my water bottles.
You can't get your water bottles out as easier. But if you got the
orange mud,
you could just stop and refill that with the bottles and then put them back in and go. Yeah. So, well, all right. I just wanted to be able to get a picture of what you're going to look like on the bike.
No, you know what I'm going to look like.
Getting rid of that huge, because that thing was heavy last year.
Yeah,
that,
it was.
that bag
and
you had on the rear.
As stable as it is, and I really commend Revelet for what they've done with stabilizing.
Yeah, it's not the bag's fault. No, the bag
moves.
is great.
It does
we
move,
love the bag.
right?
Yeah.
And when you and I go bike camping, that will be a bag that I will have on there for sure.
I got my Toe Peak.
Yeah. And I have my Toe Peak front loader that
you've got a Toe Peak front
to.
and a Revelet rear. I've got a Revelet front and a Toe Peak rear. So
yeah, there you
we're
go.
going to test it all out there.
We're psyched about that.
All right, Mr. David Palan.
Yeah. So
what did you want to ask me? You said you had a question.
I did say I had a question. And I was just kind of curious, because here we are
talking
about
half an hour into the show right now. We're still haven't even gotten to what are you working on? But that's all right.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you.
Oh,
what
am
I
working on? So speaking of Warbirds,
yes,
it's funny. The last bike I worked on was Dr. Tracy Berman's Warbird.
Oh,
she's doing a 200-mile this weekend. You're slacking and only doing a 100-mile this weekend.
True story.
She is going out and
True story. Dr. Tracy Berman's doing 200 miles this weekend. So she'll be properly tired out that she won't feel bad about having to sit back and wait for me in 200 miles 2 weeks from now. She'll feel like she's actually putting out some effort, and I can stay with her.
So anyways, I had finished working on another one of her bikes that I did
Speaking of 18-pound bikes.
I did a complete overall. So this is the bike that she did coast to coast on last year.
Right.
And I weighed that when I was done with about 2 pounds of dirt cleaned off of it. It still weighed 23 pounds. So she's dropping 5 pounds of weight as well, just in the bike.
Yeah.
That's with nothing else on it. with her Warbird that also weighs in the 18s, like yours.
Yeah.
But anyways, she wanted to just bring it in and say, hey, can you just double check everything? So this is a similar pre-ride check that I do for cyclocross.
Right.
You're going through, you're checking everything to make sure it's the main
you
thing.
Say everything. Now let's. This is important. Because I have a race tomorrow, and I probably should have done this last week. But tell me, what should I be looking at? What do you look at? How do you race prep a bike? This is important for our cyclocross friends, our gravel friends. How? Because you didn't pull it all apart. No. Right?
This is like somebody comes to you and says, I think everything's good.
Right.
Can you look it over? Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Say, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, everything's good. Well, I don't need to check anything.
That'll be $20.
All right, so it's quickly. You check the headset to make sure there's no knock in the headset, right? Because people can, even though they think it's good, they can still be knocked there. You check the cranks to make sure, and that's just, rolling up your drive side armed up parallel to the seat tube, giving it a pull back and forth, making sure there's no wobble in the bottom bracket. If they're telling you everything's good, you can ask them, are there any bearing noise that you're hearing? Usually, if they're saying everything's good, that's usually almost always a no. Checking and then after, those are the two main things that I check as far as tightness. I want to check the hubs, so just hand at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock on each wheel and see if it's rocking at all. Any rocking in the hubs? Again, usually a no, but sometimes that can sneak by people too. They think everything's good and there's some knocking in the hubs, so that needs to be taken out. Once you've done those are your main bearing points, right? Your hubs, bottom bracket, headset.
Yep.
Once you've done that, it's just a matter of going through. Again, this is assuming they're telling you everything feels fine. There's no problems. It's a matter of going through and checking every single thing to make sure it's tight. Okay, so you go through, just like your pre-race check, do it however you can come up with a system of doing it. A lot of people will start at the handlebars and work their way diagonally back to the rear derailleur, right? So you do faceplate bolts, check the torque, get the torque spec, which is what we did. Stem bolts.
Is that a 5?
It's on that bike, it was a 5. Sometimes it's a T25.
No,
sometimes
it's a 5
4.
Newton meter.
Oh, it was actually 6, I believe.
Ooh.
I think on that. So going through all those, and then work your way back down. Saddle pinch bolt. Hers was a little loose. It wasn't loose, right? But it wasn't torqued to 6, right? So that tightened. Actually, several of these things tightened a little bit. Then I'll go down, check pedals, make sure your pedals are tight. People always forget their pedals. they just assume their pedals are tight. They're fine until they come off, right? So check those, make sure those are tight. I checked, because she's running Shimano, she's got crank pinch bolts, so I checked her crank pinch bolts. I checked her brakes, her flat mount disc brakes, make sure those bolts are tightened to the right torque spec. Those actually all tightened a little bit too. This is a brand new bike, right? So this is common stuff. Rear derailleur bolt, right? Rear derailleur bolts to make sure the derailleurs aren't going to fall off the frame. Make sure those are tightened to the proper. Quick, I don't necessarily put the tool on. If everything's shifting fine, and you do a visual from the back of the bike and you look and it looks straight and it's shifting fine, you run through the gears and it's shifting fine, it's not hitting the wheel and everything looks straight, I just go with that.
Especially in her case, she's running DI2. So it's not a matter of tightening and loosening, and it's going to run.
If that all looks good, then I don't necessarily put the tool on. If I have no reason to suspect that the derailleur she hasn't crashed on it or anything like that.
Oh, she didn't tell you.
Did she crash?
No.
So go through that. Make sure. Also, actually, when you're up at the handlebars, when you're doing like the faceplate, check the levers. Make sure they're tight on the bars.
Let me tell you something. This is something that does not get enough attention.
Making sure the levers are tight.
Making sure the levers are tight.
Well, here's what happens. People crash.
Right.
The lever gets pushed in.
Right.
And what do?
Just yank on it.
They just yank it back.
Yep.
And they never go back and check it again.
And they wrap bar tape on it.
Right.
So, I mean, you could loosen that thing in an extreme case, loosen it pretty loose, and that bar tape,
the tape
is
is
going to
holding
keep
it
it
on.
in place
Right.
when it's stationary.
Right.
And then you got your hands on the hoods, and you go through some bumpy stuff.
Or you do a quick stop, and
Yeah.
your weight hits it, and it slides down.
Yeah.
And now
you got dental work.
or you're just having to mess with it all until you
Right.
get to some place where, because a lot of times the multi-tool 5mm doesn't fit. It's
does not.
It's too short, depending on which Shimano levers you have and where the bolt is, because Shimano loves to move that thing all over the place. It may not fit, so you got to wait till you can get to the checkpoint to get a long Allen. So anyway,
everything you've already mentioned,
uh-huh.
when you visually inspect the bike, you see that bolt head.
Yeah.
When you visually inspect a bike,
you don't
see
those
that
brake levers.
Brake lever attachment bolts.
Yeah.
So there's your tip.
Yep.
There's your pearl of wisdom.
Exactly. So then I wheels off, just check the true of the wheels, make sure. Now with disc brakes, that's less important.
Mm-hmm.
With rim brakes, that's more important. Visually looked at every single spoke nipple and the condition of the rim right by the spoke nipples.
And again, this is a brand new bike with brand new wheels.
Brand new bike, yeah. So, but still, just looking for any cracks, bent, anything that you see. That all looked good. Front and rear. Check the bolts on the rotors.
Right.
Don't forget that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, this is Dr. TB's bike, so you do have to make sure that the through axle is torqued to spec in the back wheel.
Well, one thing I noticed on the Warbird is that rear through axle is a little bit tricky to get engaged. Part of the reason I think that is the stays that on the rear wheel are very narrow, very thin, narrow stays.
Right.
And what I noticed is when you put that through axle back in, it tends, if it doesn't engage right away, it pushes the other the dropout
away
on the other side away, and then it has trouble getting threaded. You have to really kind of hold that drive side dropout with your hand and the wheel at the same time so that they stay together, and then put your through axle in. So I think that could be a potential down the road as stays get thinner and thinner, because people want for a lot of reasons, stays get thinner and thinner. That can be a problem that creates difficulty getting that rear wheel. And if you had to change it quickly, that's something good to note. Like in a cross race, that's something
Warbird
good
owners, be aware. On the drive side, the bolt that through axle bolts into is also what holds your hanger.
Yeah.
And there have been cases where that has been loosened, and then it kind of it hides itself. That problem hides itself because once you tighten that through axle through, you feel like everything's tight,
right?
But it may indeed not be, because that's a good interface with the derailleur hanger, may still be loose.
Yeah. So, but anyways, went through a few. Like I said, a few things tightened up that probably would have been fine, but now she knows that they're fine, and we know that they're up to torque spec. So, that was basically it.
Did you apply the small amount of brake rub as I asked?
No, we got rid of all that.
Oh no.
So that's what I was working on. So there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Mr. David Palan.
Yes.
Do you have life insurance?
It's funny. You have been asking me question after question after question. I didn't realize this was going to be an interrogation. I do have life insurance.
Life insurance. So as always, this show is sponsored by the good folks at healthiq.com.
Health IQ, it's life insurance.
If you go to healthiq.com/WAP and do the questionnaire and score elite, which you probably will, or if you don't, then there's your training goal is to score elite. And you get great deals. They are health conscious life insurance company that are passing the savings that you've earned onto you rather than them.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. It's a great way for people that are physically fit and active minded people to save money on life insurance. They are a huge supporter of the Wide Angle Podium Network. We cannot thank them enough for the duration of time that they've been supporting this network, and we just really love what they do. So if you want to do things that help support the shows and get a great deal on life insurance, go to healthiq.com
healthiq.com/WAP
and check it out. That's all we ask. It's a huge help. So thank you very much. And I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I would bet you're not.
All right, Mr. David Palan,
Yes,
we're
sir.
going to talk about, normally this would be about the time when we do a tech topic, but we're already at the 40-minute mark. So what we're going to do,
You're long-winded.
What we decided to do this week for this show is just there's a few just quick topic things we wanted to discuss that aren't really
things that have been laying around in the
they're not really full tech topics in themselves,
Right.
but we just kind of wanted to mention them. So we're going to kind of throw those all together right now and talk about them right now.
All right.
The first thing, this was my idea, and this is a new one, but there's this race that they do in Kansas that I've heard of?
No, I haven't heard about
It's this gravel race that they do in Kansas.
No. Kansas,
Dirty Kanza,
Michigan?
of course. Dirty Kanza, of course, which we just had.
I thought we were going to a discussion of vinyl, and we're going to talk about Kansas.
The band? No.
No.
So I just think it's pretty cool. A company that maybe other people hadn't heard of. They were kind of on my radar, but not real strong on my radar. Is Allied Cycle Works.
Yeah,
and why do I
their
bring up?
bikes did pretty well, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do I bring up Allied Cycle Works? Allied Cycle Works was so the big event at DK is, of course, the 200-mile. And by big, I just mean most popular.
Right, not longest.
Not longest. Of course, we got the DKXL, which was 350 miles, which by the way, people may remember we had Matt Acker on last year. He won it last year, finished second this year. I've kind of thrown out an invitation for him, and hopefully we'll get him on again at some point to talk about his setup this year.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, guess what he rides?
Warbird.
A Warbird. So anyways, I'm very curious to hear about him and his puncture-filled ride that it sounds like.
You always get one more puncture
than you have stuff to fix.
Stuff to fix it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he got to the point where he basically had to wait for the next rider to come and give him something to repair. He got so many flats, he used up everything he had.
Including the bubble gum and Band-Aids.
Yeah, I mean, that's... talk about frustrating.
Yeah.
And you still finish second.
And here's the thing that is so this is the spirit of gravel.
Yeah.
That he had every reason to say, I really tried hard.
Yeah.
It's not me. I could have gone on, but my equipment failed.
Yeah.
And they persevere.
You just keep going. And also the fact that the rider in third was like, "Oh yeah, here,
yeah.
So let me help you. Let me help you fix your bike so that you can keep going." So, anyways, Allied Cycle Works, winner of both the men's and women's 200-mile event at Dirty Kanza.
Wow,
that's impressive. I mean, last year Cannondale did the same thing, right? Ted King and Katie Keogh both ride Cannondales, but I don't know, they're a big company. There's a lot of Cannondales, right?
They're not a niche little.
They're not a niche
manufacturer.
So that's what I think is just so cool about this is the fact that this smaller bike manufacturer that not as many people have heard about as Cannondale, I'm sure, comes in, supports these two riders, and then those two riders go on and win the two big events, the 200s of both the men's and the women's race.
And
so
that is
amazing.
by no means taking anything away from Amity, Rockwell, or Colin Strickland.
No. They would have won anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever they were riding, they probably would have won anyways. But it's just, I just applaud Allied for the foresight of, look, here's two legit riders.
Yeah.
Let's help them. Let's support them. And then the riders come through for them, right? And really, but one of the cool things, I don't know if people have gone and looked at these Allied frames, is they have the elevated drive side.
That is by far the most distinct thing when you look at that frame.
When you look at the profile of these bikes and you see the elevated drive side chainstay is really cool. It's a really cool thing. Of course, one of the main reasons for doing that is to eliminate chain slap, right? I mean, you're not going to have your chain slapping against that chainstay.
Right, because it's its slap is in the downward direction.
Is in the downward direction. But another thing,
and just to be clear, that chainstay is above the chain,
above the chain,
above the top of the chain.
Yeah, unless you're running a huge 50-tooth cassette, then it brings it up about even with the chainstay, but still it's not going to hit it.
Right.
And the other thing it allows you to do is you can change your chain. Your chain is not running through. You brought this up. Your chain is not running through the rear triangle anymore.
Right. Correct.
It's running underneath it. So you could make one of these frames into a belt drive.
Yeah, and I thought that was the point that you brought to me when I pointed out that you don't need to have a chain breaker to take the chain off.
Right.
You said, that'd make it perfect for a belt drive, and that would be really cool.
Yeah, heck
you could do either a single speed or an internally geared hub on the back, and that would be, especially in gravel, where chains tend to pick up stuff,
right?
And when they pick up stuff,
it's nice to be able to
torn
clean.
or broken or stretched. So it'd be great.
So you would still have to unlace it from the rear derailleur, but you should be doing that anyways to clean your pulley wheels. Yeah, and so I don't want this to be an ad for Allied Cycle Works, although it's much deserved. They make amazingly good looking frames,
and we'd be more than willing to take them out for a ride if they want to send us one, and we'll send it back.
Right, sure.
If you want to send us one, and we could do a full on review.
A U.S. company, they make everything in the U.S. for their frames. So really, really cool. People should go check it out and see what. And I think it's just prevalent that they supported the two winners of DK this year. So the two 200-mile winners of DK this year. So I think they deserve some props, and we wanted to give them a little.
And while we're throwing props to DK winners,
yes,
did you happen to notice who won the men's high school DK first time riding gravel?
I did. That would be Lucas Skywalker. Wait a minute, Lucas Steerwald.
Yeah,
wins. Also a member of the.
Wide angle podium.
Also a member of the U.S. Worlds team.
Indeed.
For cyclocross.
I thought you were going to say member of the Lionhearts, but yeah.
And a proud member of the Lionhearts.
Yeah.
He rode that on his Niner cyclocross bike.
Indeed he did.
Yes.
Yep.
I know this because I talked to him yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. He
is having an amazing late spring, early summer.
Yes. He's just a great kid, and he's doing some road stuff now, and won a crit the other day. So, that was really cool. That's one of the things I don't know if people realize about DK is I think there's a 25, a 50, 100. Of course, the 200 and then a 350 in the distance. And then there's the high school race, which is 20. It's like 26, 27, something like that. I forget what he said for that. So, it's all, of course, awesome. Probably, I'm sure most people would say it's the premier gravel event in the country right now.
In the world.
The world, really, for sure. There you go. And Mr. David Palan, there was, what else? Since we're in this tech topic grab bag.
Yeah.
What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about, as you know, I do with our juniors development program, I teach them about cycling, which means cyclocross, not preseason or any of that stuff. Yeah. And one of our kids had come by when I was teaching them how to dismount and remount, and as I heard him going by, I heard that the very distinctive ka-ting, 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 ka-ting.
That's right away. Your mind goes spoke.
Yeah,
something spoke.
Like, either stop immediately because I don't want to hear the snap.
Right. You either have a broken spoke or you're about to have a broken spoke.
Exactly. Right. And does he have the dork disc on that thing? Because he's gonna need it.
Right.
And sure enough, like you're thinking, when I had him stop, bring his bike over, we took a look at it, and it was not limit screws. It was, obvious to the point where I could see it without any tools.
So what you're thinking is the derailleur is touching the spokes as the wheel goes around. And so first thought, limit screws, good idea.
Second thought, bent derailleur hanger.
Yes.
And maybe those are both first thoughts. I don't know. Maybe the first thought really is bent derailleur hanger.
Right, yeah.
And I pulled his dad aside. I said, hey, listen, either bring it by the shop over at Motor City Bicycle. He lives pretty close to there, and we'll take a look at it. Or bring it by my house at some point if you want to do that, or just go out and buy the park
hanger tool.
Was it DAG?
Yeah.
1 point or 2 point, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and measure it up. We've talked about it on the show, how to do it. There's videos out there. I'm sure you're a smart man. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
He said to me, but you don't understand. I'm particularly cheap. I said, I don't think the tool's that expensive. He said, I think I saw online a different way to do this, and I'll look into it.
Right.
I get a text from him not an hour after practice ends. Yeah, the DAG is whatever it is, retail, $80.
Yeah. If you played full retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did I mention I'm cheap?
Again.
I was like, yeah, bring it by. I'll be more than happy to look at it. Then he sent me a picture of his workaround, which was to remove the rear derailleur, as you would with any of the tools.
Right.
Used a quick release wheel.
Okay.
That was, true enough.
Yeah.
Right? Within specs.
Yeah. Which is 0.5 millimeter. For lateral true, generally 0.5 millimeter. Go ahead.
Threaded the quick release through the derailleur hanger bolt hole.
Okay.
Where you would put the derailleur hanger.
So he took the end cap off, left the lever and the skewer through, put that end into the derailleur hanger, then put the cap on the other side of the derailleur hanger and tightened it?
I'm not going to figure out which side he put the cap, which side he had the
Well, he must have, because he still has the wheel in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It still has, the wheel itself is outboard.
Right.
On the derailleur hanger.
Gotcha.
Tightens it up enough that it is now,
so the skewer is holding a second wheel through the derailleur hanger.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And now this creates what is supposed to be a parallel line to the wheel that is still mounted in the bike.
Yeah.
Use that, and you measure the top of the wheel, spin it 180 degrees, measure the bottom of the wheel.
Yeah. I would say to take out, it would be great if you had a wheel that was perfectly true. Then you wouldn't need to turn the second wheel. But even if you did, what you could do is just you use the valve, right, to make sure you're always using the same spot, and you turn that from the bottom, make a measurement, turn that up to the top, make another measurement, and then then the true of that second wheel doesn't matter.
Right.
It can be anything.
Right.
Because you're checking it at the same point. And then so he used that to measure the difference and then straightened it based on that until those two measurements were the same.
Right.
I love it.
And again, you're going to take the measurement that it's out on the top or the bottom.
This is not
halfway back.
This is not something you're going to do at a race or in the pit, right? But for an at-home what's the word? Solution to fixing this when you got time and you're tinkering. I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a little cumbersome. You got to use a measuring thing. You don't have the little rod to do a quick measurement, but so what? You're not doing it for
either way. I think the longest or the part that is the most cumbersome in doing this with the tool or with the wheel is removing the derailleur from the derailleur hanger. Anyways, either situation, you're going to need to do that.
You could totally be on the road somewhere and have a bent hanger and not have the tool available for whatever reason.
Exactly.
You could just say, hey, let me borrow a wheel real quick.
Yep.
And you could definitely get it,
Right.
I love it.
And as a home mechanic myself, not a professional mechanic as you, but as a home mechanic myself, there are some tools I have either yet to buy.
Yeah.
Or I think, how often am I going to need that crown race remover for a for a fork?
Do you have the crown race remover?
I do not.
Okay. Good.
I have friends that have
if you ever need it, borrow mine.
Yeah. I can bring it to the shop.
I use it at the shop more. We have one there, and I use that one more. But my home one, I bet
it's unused.
I don't use very much at all.
Yeah. So in that case, you have to figure out what your dollar point is, and maybe it's $80.
Right.
I don't know. Whatever it is, where a workaround tool. We talked in the green room a little bit about bearing presses.
Yes.
Right?
I think that's another good example of where homemade tools are just as functional as, if you think about it, the park home headset press is essentially
A threaded rod.
A threaded rod. A bunch of parts that you could buy at a hardware store.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that means you shouldn't buy the Park one, because here's everything conveniently packaged with nice rubber handles to make it a little bit easier on your hands. There's a ton of good reasons to buy the Park home headset press, and it works fine. They give you a spacer for when you get too close to the top tube with the handles, and you can't turn it unless you're a little bit higher. So there's a lot of good reasons.
And they support cycling.
But and a homemade headset press with washers and nuts is just as legitimate as to fix the problem as that tool is.
You're building one bike every 5 years.
Yes.
Do you really need your a headset press?
Yeah.
Probably not. But
now,
they're nice to have.
That being said, at the speaking of the shop, we have the home version of the Park tool, and then I have in my personal box the more expensive shop mechanic headset press that has the quick release, so you can quickly get it up. And so anytime anyone needs to use the headset press,
they don't use the one at
they
the
don't
shop.
use the one. They come over and borrow mine because it's so much nicer to use, and the handles are nicer, and it just feels more solid all the way around. So again, there's good reasons to buy both the Park home headset press from Park and the Pro headset press from Park. Both big legitimate reasons to get either one of those. But there's also the workaround is also just as legitimate. And generally, when you're doing those kind of things, you're going to be investing less money, but more time. That's almost always what it comes down to, right? Is if I'm going to do things less expensively, and that's fine. Maybe you have more. A lot of people have more time than money, right?
And sometimes it's fun just to figure out
a way to do it.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And what you do on your own bike is not necessarily. We talk a lot about a lot of the things that I talk about, Mr. Dave Palan, are this is the level you want to be when you're working on someone else's bike who is a professional racer. Your standards of what you're going to do as far as quote unquote workarounds is much lower. It's much closer to zero when you're working on someone else's bike who's a pro, right? When you're working on your own bike and you want to fix it, do it, man. This is one of the things that's so cool about bikes is that you can attach a milk crate to the back and use it as a rack, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so viewer feedback,
cool.
Scotty D. Viewer feedback. I was on a ride, as I sometimes do on a Sunday, riding dirt roads. And one of our esteemed viewers that rides a Stigmata had mentioned that sometimes he kind of glazes over when we get too deep into the weeds of describing a piece or a bit or a bob. And not that he doesn't appreciate that. But he also, he's like, that's the part where I figure that's the pro mechanic side of it. And I enjoy figuring out how I can do things as well. So there we are. And I would be remiss if I did not mention viewer Ansel de Jong and his dad, Lawrence de Jong, who submitted that unknowingly that whether we call it a hack or a workaround or whatever it is to us to use on this show. So special thanks to you guys, and I will bring a Bike Shop CX sticker for Ansel's bike because I know he put one on his other bike, which he's now outgrown.
There you go.
All right.
Mr. David Palan, we have a new sponsor.
Whoop it up. What? Talk to me about it.
The Wide Angle Podium, a lot of the shows on Wide Angle Podium are sponsored by a company called Whoop.
That's WHOOP. Whoop.
Yeah, so go to WHOOP.com, use the code BIKESHOP when you check out, and you get 15% off either a 12 or 18-month membership.
Nice.
And what this thing is Whoop is a way to measure it. They say they measure recovery, strain, and sleep.
Right.
So it's actually not measuring as much your workouts. There's other stuff for that. This is measuring your recovery.
And recovery is an important aspect. Some people say the most important aspect of working out.
Yeah. So
that's when you're building muscle and showing how your body is adapting. That's what workouts are, is working hard to then make your body adapt to the work that you've done.
Yeah. So they make this Whoop strap. So they have the Whoop strap 3.0.
Right. Even better than Whoop strap 2.0.
Always. I mean, it must be. It's a bigger number. Yep. So you get the Whoop strap 3.0 and you get a 12 or 18-month subscription. If you go check it out, WHOOP.com and use the code BIKESHOP. you'll get a 15% discount on that stuff and see what you think. I think, you measure your recovery.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
That strap, just to give you a sense of how detailed and how robust. I love that word. Don't you think we should use the word robust more in communication?
Well, you and I are big advocates of, we talk about this, Mr. Dave Palan, that in a lot of times we've both done or heard things about how important sleep is, right? We both know that, right?
Right.
And how people tend to think of, in a lot of times, especially Americans and people in the U.S., they think of if you get enough sleep, you're lazy.
That's right.
Right, which is a completely bad attitude to have, right? In my opinion. So I think there's good research supporting that the fact that sleep is important. So, it's important to get enough sleep. You shouldn't think of it as someone that gets enough sleep as lazy. So this is going to help you determine how much sleep you're getting. And,
and of all the coaching that I need, sleep coaching
is one
by
of them.
far. And this is almost marking what you're saying. It's not at all.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, I actually am I have a form of narcolepsy.
Right.
So sleep is something I know very well.
Right.
Perhaps too well in some points, but it is critical for me to get enough sleep.
I envy how you can sleep, dude. Mr. David Pound can sleep in a bathtub.
I can sleep in a bathtub. I have slept in a bathtub.
Mr. David Pound
so that's the good part of it,
can
right?
essentially command himself to sleep
I
and
can
then fall
sleep
asleep.
standing up as long as I can lean against something. Right? My sister used to tease me. I'd say I had trouble falling asleep. She said, "What does that mean? You felt the pillow?" Right? Of course, I also have slept on aero bars during a ride.
Right. So there's a downside
downsides as well, right? I like to say there's a difference between sleepy and tired. Tired, you can control. Sleepy, you don't have control over.
Yeah. So, anyways, go to whoop.com, use the discount code BikeShop, check it out, and see what you think.
Yeah, tell them that Scotty D and Mr. David Palan sent you.
All right. Well, they're kind of doing that by using Bike Shop, but I get your
You're
point.
always getting all over me, man.
All right, Mr. David Palan, we're going to get to our questions.
All right, questions.
Before the show gets too long. We only got 3 questions, which is awesome, though. That's plenty for what we got. I'm going to read the first one.
Okay.
If that works. This is from Roger in Bellingham, Washington. You know who's from Bellingham?
There's a pro cyclocross
Courtney,
racer.
my good friend Courtney McFadden is from Bellingham.
Yes, she is. I wonder if she knows Roger.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Roger sends us, "Dear PhDs of all things pedal powered." That might be an overstatement, but I don't know. I kind of like it.
I like it.
I finally have a question worthy of the Sprocket brothers.
As opposed to the Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers with the Sprocket brothers. I got it.
Okay. All right. I recently removed and reinstalled the stem on my 2015 Raleigh RXC. While torquing the stem bolts, I found that the upper clamp is fully closed at 5 Newton meters, while the lower clamp has a few millimeter gap at 5 Newton meters. Is this a sign of some sort of deformation? And is this a reason to replace the stem? Thank you for all your sage cycling shenanigans, Roger from in Bellingham.
Okay, can I get to his question?
Sure.
He says, is it a time to replace the stem? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, they should match, basically.
Yeah. So I would do a quick check of my steer tube. If you have a carbon steer tube, make sure your steer tube is okay, and that it's, not compressed or cracked.
Now, he did send a picture, if I'm not mistaken.
He sent a couple pictures of the stem.
So, and it is at the steer tube, or it's at the
faceplate? No, it's the steer tube. It's
Okay.
the steer tube side. The faceplate one, those should, except for there is
it an Easton
the
one?
Easton top lock,
Yep.
where the top should be the faceplate should be compressed
touch.
against
Right.
the stem and actually touch, and then you should have all your gap at the bottom. Who knows? There could be some other stem in existence that uses the same idea, but except for that, your stem faceplate should always have equal spacing, top and bottom. But the steer tube side, yeah, that's probably somehow stretched or bent in some way,
right,
worn out in some way that's compressing too far. Because once those are touching, you are not tightening that anymore, right?
You're not tightening against the steer tube. You're just tightening it against itself.
Exactly. So you're not making it tighter against the steer tube, and your potential for slipping is high. So yeah, I would look at.
And if it has compressed it to that point, you may want to have someone take a look, especially if it is a carbon steer tube, to make sure that it's not damaged at the top.
Definitely check your steer tube really quickly. That could be fine, and you just need a new stem, which, I think that's a pretty inexpensive stem. I think it's an aluminum stem.
Yeah.
So we're not.
Oh, now it's time to upgrade.
Now you can switch to that carbon stem.
Yeah, that zip carbon stem you've always wanted.
All right, Mr. David Palan, let's get on to the next one. I love this greeting.
John's question?
Huh?
So I get to read John's question?
Read John's question.
Okay, John says, Dear Mr. Palenbach. That's like Benifer or Brangelina.
That's John. That's in John's email. That's not Mr. David Palan making that. Okay.
Yeah. Although neither of those worked out, so maybe I shouldn't jinx you. I took the wheel building challenge last year and built 2 sets of wheels for my wife and me. I got a late start, and at your advice, I'm waiting to glue them up until August. That's your advice.
That's
not my advice.
David was like, glue them now.
I wasn't quite that loud, but yeah. In the last few weeks, we have decided to focus on gravel riding rather than racing cross for the upcoming season. My question is, should I hold onto the head Belgiums with SRAM 900 hubs or get rid of them? Or should I glue up a wider tire that we could use for the winter or muddier days? I know Mr. David Palan did coast to coast riding tubulars and did well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have to qualify did well. The tires did fine.
The tires did well. Yes, right.
And I finished. And that certainly was well in that case. Okay, I'm building the Salsa Warbird, and my wife is getting the Niner RLT.
Okay.
Our primary wheel set will be I9s. We've been using the last few years since they are made in Asheville. I would appreciate any suggestions you may have. Thanks for all of your wisdom and knowledge you pass on through your podcasts. John, member of the Wide Angle Podium from Asheville, North Carolina.
Well, I don't know about you, Mr. David Pound, but I think you could do either one of those things. Neither is a bad solution. I think if you want to have some fun riding tubulars on your gravel bike, as you have done.
I have done.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing wrong with that. You loved the ride that you got from those, right?
Between the ride quality and... You know how many flats I get when I was riding gravel
I'm
on
gonna
my
guess
tubulars? Go ahead.
Zero.
There was the one time that I rolled a tubular.
Yeah.
And did a job on my shoulder. Took me off the bike for a month.
Right.
But that is user error. That's not the tire's fault.
Right.
So, yeah, make sure that things are glued. You should do that anyways.
Yeah.
You should make sure tires are inflated. If for whatever reason there is maintenance involved in any of these solutions.
I think John just wants to ignore my advice and wants to glue those damn tires
so
right now.
To tire.
So he's
to glue.
We're not going to wait for cross. We're just going to use them for gravel.
I'm giving up cross. If I have to wait till August, I'm done with cross. Yeah. Coming season is coming.
I think it's cool. I think it's totally cool to be running tubulars on your gravel. Now, if I was going to go do a 200-mile gravel event, I don't think I would. Tubulars are not the best choice, right?
John, he was the one that told me last year, I think tubulars are the way to go. Now he's saying, if I had to do 200 miles, I wouldn't use tubulars. You said Canties are better than discs, and tubulars are the way to go for 200 miles of gravel with 33 mil tires and sand pits.
I think there's clear advantages to using tubeless on long-distance gravel riding.
Okay.
Now, riding around your house, going on your 40, 50-mile training rides, or going out on the Sunday, the Sunday dirt rides that you do, Mr. David Palan. Yes, I think you're going to get a beautiful plush ride. You're with other people. If you did have some major problem, you could fix it probably.
Right. Yep.
So I think they're great for that. I don't know if they'd be my primary set of gravel wheels, right, with tubulars on them.
Right. I mean, if you're going out gravel adventuring and bike camping and stuff, I am a firm believer in you rung what you brung, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what you have, and if you want to race some cross and want to put cross tires on those, gravel is not such a different thing. You know, there was a time before roads were paved, before cars were commonplace, where bikes were ridden on gravel. They weren't gravel bikes at the time. They were bikes.
With solid tires.
In my day, we rode our high wheeler.
Right? Well, we've been saying that for a long time. Right? You can ride anything on gravel. Yep. We got friends that run 23s, and when they get to gravel, they just keep riding.
Yep. Now, granted, we don't live in Flint Hills. Right? We're not going to get sidewall cuts and stuff like that.
Correct.
We have... Well, today coming down your road here, there are some holes.
But
there
we
are
have
some
fairly
bumps, but
well-maintained gravel roads here. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I think there's some cool, John, that being just having those, you can, next year you might switch back. You might be like, okay, this year we're going to race cross. If you leave these wheels like they are.
Because you have to wait till August anyways
now
to
you've
glue
got
up the new tires.
Your cross, you still have your cross wheels, right?
Yep.
And you can switch them over. I would, since it sounds to me like you have the I-9s as your primary gravel wheels, I would probably just figure out something, glue these up. I'd probably glue up something like a dune. And then go out and run these suckers, or a chicane, and then run these suckers on gravel and just have a blast.
So someone's talking the challenge line there. Mm-hmm. I still really, really like my Vittoria dries.
Or
running for gravel.
Terreno dries.
Yeah, Vittoria Terreno dries.
Yep. I think that could be that's a great choice as well.
Yeah.
You know, and go out and just have fun with them, man.
Yeah.
On the gravel.
But we kind of buried the lead.
Which was?
I'm building the
Salsa Warbird. That's good. Then
Salsa can send those checks, commission checks to at Mr. David Palan.
So you and Dr. Tracy Berman need to take your Warburgs down to Asheville to ride with John. Although his wife will be on the Niner
with Amanda
and Luke Steerwall and Drew Dillman.
Yep.
You guys can all ride.
Justin
Niners.
will come with us. We'll have the flock of birds.
And
against
the Niners.
There you go. Or with the Niners, not necessarily against the Niners. In the spirit of gravel. We have to think of the spirit.
So, John, I think that kind of answered your question. I would leave them, glue up some tires, some tubulars, and go have a blast.
Yeah. I struggle with get rid of them, and that is why I have.
Well, I don't think he's saying get rid of them. I think he's saying should
I get rid of them,
or I think he's saying get rid of the rims maybe, and just relace them as tubeless or something.
Well, the head bilge and rims are on SRAM 900 hubs.
Yeah,
and he's got I9s
on his current wheels. Yeah. But I'm thinking...
I thought he was going to lace up something new.
You could just switch the rim, right? You could relace, since he's done 2 sets for the Wheel Build Challenge, you could relace a tubeless rim, a clincher rim, and run and just switch those over. But then you don't have the tubulars to go have fun with in your cyclocross when you come back to cyclocross.
And we all do.
All right, John, let us know what you end up doing. And how
I'm really interested to hear how it turns out.
How you're seeing
Well, you know what you do? The front wheel, go tubular.
Oh,
the back wheel go tubeless.
you can mix and match.
Yeah, your wife's bike do the opposite. Yeah, see how that turns out.
All right, final question here is from expat Matt. Matt says, "Hi, Mr. Scotty D and Mr. David Palan." Another double Mister.
All right.
Greetings from Norway, where I bet I'm your biggest fan. Love the show.
We wondered who that one viewer was.
We get on Libsyn, we can see that one viewer, one person from Norway every time we.
Yeah, we always wondered. We kept saying, "Who is our fan from Norway?
Who is our Norway fan?" All right, expat Matt continues. I bought a 24-inch cyclocross. How cool is this?
Okay.
I bought a 24-inch cyclocross, and by 24, he means 24-inch wheels.
Yes.
24-inch cyclocross bike for my 9-year-old son, so he could hopefully catch the drop bar playing in the mud fever like his dad. Here's the bike, and he sends me a link to the bike. Do you have that link?
I do, but I'm afraid to click on it.
Why?
Because I don't want to,
No,
break
go
the
ahead.
internet here.
Go
at
ahead.
Bike Shop
Yeah,
Central.
because we're so like in the weeds here with our internet connection. But it is a Merida.
It's a Merida, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's a Merida junior bike. Really cool.
There's a lot of down tube there.
For a kid, it's a big fat down tube, but it's a cool looking drop bar kids cyclocross
And you know what the best
bike.
thing about this link that he sent us?
What's that?
It's in Norwegian.
It's yes. We can't read a word of it other than the you see STEM
Cyclocross.
Yeah, you see cyclocross.
Or as they say in Norwegian, cyclocross.
Although it does say racer. You can read racer. Cyclocross.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's a cool bike for kids. Man, it's awesome to see that we have bikes that are actually nice for kids, right?
Yeah.
Not some incredible, although I'm sure this isn't the lightest bike in the world, not ridiculously heavy. Anyways, he says.
Yeah, it's 10.2 kilos.
He loves the bike, right? But it turns out they have chosen to build the thing with 540 wheel size.
Oh, when he says 540, let's just be clear. There's 20. We say these are 24-inch wheels.
Right.
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 So you could think I'm just going to go get 24-inch tires to put on these 24-inch wheels.
Right. Which we know in the cycling world, the inch sizes that you see on tires
fictitious
are basically meaningless. They're basically much of what they are there for is marketing, so that we can say, hey, our wheels are bigger than your wheels. So, and this is especially true with the, it's obvious with the 27.5, Fiasco.
Yeah.
Right. And the 29ers, right. And the 26 even, it's like nothing on a 26 measures 26.
Right.
Does it, Mr. David Palan? So the only true numbers that mean anything
are the ISOs.
Are the ISO numbers on your tires. That was
if you ever want to go deep in the weeds, and we just talked about someone talking about the weeds, go back to like show 3.
Yeah.
Where Scotty
Way
D
back in the
discusses tire size.
Yeah.
A whole show on tire size.
The ISO number is a 5-digit number that normally looks like there's 2 digits, then a dash, and then 3 digits. And the 2 digits are the width of the tire. The 3 digits is the bead seat diameter. That is the diameter of the tire where the diameter of the rim where the tire bead sits in the rim.
Which is critical for measuring the tire size.
A tire fitting, right. So a 700C tire has a bead seat diameter. It would make sense that it had a bead seat diameter of 700, wouldn't it? No. It is, of course, which most people know, a 622.
And a 650B
right
is
a 27. You mean 27 inch or 650B? What's the ISO?
Yeah, the ISO.
I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head. What is it?
Okay, I don't even remember. But a lot of people think, okay, a 700C is a 27 inch.
Right. I've seen that.
But it's not.
No, two different things. So what we're talking about here, what Matt is talking about here is that's why he said they're 24-inch tires, right? But they used the standard of which one was it? 540. So in the 24-inch tire size,
right?
That 540 would be the second number, right? That 3-digit number that's the bead seat diameter.
Right. BSD.
In tires that are marked as 24-inch tires, there is 4 common bead seat diameters.
Yep.
Are you ready? They are 507, 520, 540, which is the one he mentioned.
What he has, yep.
And 547.
Right. Which ones match with 24-inch bicycle tires?
All of them.
Yeah.
Depending on which 24-inch tire you have.
Right.
So the 547 is a Schwinn standard. Schwinn kind of came up with that one. The 540 standard that Matt mentioned is called the wheelchair standard.
Right. Because if you ride on that, you're going to end up in a wheelchair.
That's what's common on wheelchairs. The 520 is sometimes called the mini BMX.
Yeah.
And the 507 is just called the regular BMX.
So the
But none
mini
of these-
BMX is bigger than the regular BMX.
Correct.
Okay.
And none of these are 20-inch BMX.
Oh, of course not.
Right. All right. So what I would do, well, let's see.
So just to review,
Yeah.
he's got wheels on here that the tires that are going to fit on it basically are wheelchair
They
tires.
meet the wheelchair size. Yes.
Yes.
So he's like, they're the 540 wheels and the stock tires are best for road. So he's got basically on this bike for his kid, he's got road tires, and he's like, I want to get other 540s for this bike that will be cyclocross.
Right. And did you look up options?
So he says the only tires I can find online are for wheelchairs.
Right.
Of course. Oh, Matt, I feel your pain, man. Luckily, Matt is a handy guy, Mr. David Palan.
Because he took the
Wheel Build Challenge. Matt says, I'd like to get him set up with a good set of supple tires. He's only 9, so he's a lightweight. Sounds like a good idea to me. Question number 1. Any sources for decent tires this size? There are, the quick answer to 540s is no. you get wheelchair tires.
Yep.
That's what you get.
the gray solid ones.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily,
plastic,
but yeah. Question 2. If I build him a set of wheels in a different size, what 24-inch variant has the best tire option? Clincher or maybe tubulous? Now we're getting to somewhere.
Right,
And number
right.
3 is any good tire suggestions available in 24. Thanks in advance, expat Matt. So Matt, what I would do, the best tire selection is if you go with the 507s.
Okay.
That's the straight up BMX, because what that makes available to you is a lot of tires that people use in BMX. So Maxxis makes a bunch of different tires in the 507s. And I think you'll probably find Kenda makes some decent tires in the 507s, all different treads. And you'll get a lot of options right there. Schwalbe makes a couple different. V makes a couple different. So that by far will give you the most tire options. So what I would do, Matt, unfortunately, I'd relace those onto some 507 rims, disc brake bike, so that won't change anything with your disc brakes, and go from there. You'll get a ton of tire options. I mean, you got as many tire options at 507 as you do as a lot of tires. So that would be my advice. Mr. David Palan, do you concur with that?
I do, and I'm right here looking at the options. Maxxis makes a ton of tires there. Kenda makes some tires for you.
Yep.
As well, of course, Primo makes the wheelchair tire for you.
Of course, right. So go with that. Let us know what you end up doing there, Matt, and we'd love to send us a picture when you're done. If you do this and get those on there and on that bike, send us a picture of the actual bike. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, either way you go.
Yeah, whatever you decide, we would love to see that bike for sure. So,
yep.
All right, Mr. David Palan,
and get that done like fairly quickly.
Yeah,
because Cross is coming, and because your son is going to need a different bike if you wait more than 6 months. He's going to outgrow that thing. That's the other nice thing about kids. Is they outgrow their equipment.
Exactly. All right, Mr. David Palan.
Okay.
I think that's it. We've answered. We did our questions. We did everything we have to do.
Let's go through the checklist.
Okay, so before I forget, it just popped into my head. 650B, 584.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. David Palan, if people want to get in touch with you,
yes,
via the social interwebs, what's the best?
Don't reach out to me on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore.
Okay,
it's just
you and me both.
So if you have reached out to me on Facebook and I haven't answered you, I apologize. But don't take it personally. I'm not there.
Okay.
But
now that we've covered that,
now that you know where I'm not,
right?
At Mr. David Palan on Instagram and at Mr. David Palan on the Twitter.
All right, and you can find me, Scott Diedenbach, at BikeShopCX on Instagram is the best way. I do check Twitter about once a day, so if it's not something you want to get me right away, you can send it to at BikeShopCX on the Twitter sphere. Or, as always, Mr. David Palan, if people want to send questions to the show, where do they send those to?
bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
And we're going to put out a request. If people want to send us an audio question,
yes,
we would love that. If you send us an audio question, we will play it on the show.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to type out an email and you want to just quickly record an audio question, totally fine. We will play that on the show within reason, of course.
Yeah.
If you give us a half hour.
If you sing our praises, that's enough.
If you go on for half an hour, it's either going to be edited or not used.
Yeah.
Right. But if you have a quick question, do a quick audio recording and email that to bikeshopshow@gmail.com. And
bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
And we will play that on the air. No problem.
Yeah. Hey.
Yes.
I know you want to close the bike shop.
Yes.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't say, hey, Isaac Robinson, Normie appreciates the fact that you're caring about dogs on Bike Shop CX. we deference, a lot of deference to cats because we're here at Bike Shop CX Central.
Right. It is cat headquarters here.
And Norm the Dachshund and his sister Sadie really appreciate the love that they got when I tweeted a picture of Norm on his No Dogs Allowed sign.
Yes. That was cool.
All right. Thank you, Isaac. And he's reaching for the orange button. I bet he's going to push it, so I better say, the bike shop is closed.
All right, that is the show for this week. No real tech topic, just a bunch of small tech topics and question answering. And we did a long, what are you working on? Extended, what are you working on section. So
yeah, we're getting ready for 200 miles of riding.
There you go. That's the show for this time. And as Mr. David said, maybe Mr. David Palan said, he's going to be out there riding his 200 miles. That's 2 weeks. This weekend is 100 miles. And I hope everybody is getting out there and riding. If you are getting out there and riding, be careful out there. Take care of each other out there. And until next time, the bike shop is closed.
Come see us at Glen Gravel, Glen Ramble. But it's probably over by the time you're listening to this. He's going to try to edit me out, but I've got it in the music now.